I am Tamisha Monet. I'm your astrologer, and this is the Mercury and Cancer in Leo retrograde reading for 2019. Okay, so as you guys noticed, I did not do any retrograde posts, any retrograde readings. The reason being, I knew that retrograde was going to ping pong back and forth between Cancer and Leo, and I wanted to wait towards the end and towards the last 2 weeks for the post shadow period to equip you guys for that. And I also want to go over the 5 or 6 other planets and asteroids that are also in retrograde, what they mean, how will they impact you, and how long they last. We have 5 other planets and asteroids that are in retrograde and will be until December of this year. So we are not in the clear with retrograde at all. Mercury itself will actually go retrograde again during Scorpio season. So this year, the retrogrades for Mercury have been in water signs, and whenever Mercury goes in retrograde, it goes into retrograde 3 times a year. It picks a particular element, like it'll do fire, it'll do earth, it'll do air, and this year it's doing water. And so when it's in those signs, this is the area that we need to pay attention to. So it's going to go into Mercury retrograde again, in Scorpio season, and a lot of shadow behavior will be called into question. A lot of secrets will be revealed. A lot of shadow work will be forced upon you if you haven't done it already. So during this video, I'm going to talk about what you can expect for the 2-week post-shadow period during Mercury retrograde, what things may have already occurred during Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and what it is that you need to move forward. I'm also going to do a separate video for retrograde season, and it's going to be a reading for the signs and what your sign needs to master and work on for the next 5 to 6 months. So let's talk about Mercury and what it is. In shamanic astrology, and I do say shamanic astrology because I have African American and Native American ancestry. My family is from the Kuasati tribe, or as the Europeans mispronounced it, Kusada. So the astrology that I do is that of a shaman nature. It's not always the Western version of astrology. So a lot of my astrology may talk about initiation and self-healing practices and rituals that are required for you to elevate and ascend within your soul purpose. Analytical assimilation, how you talk, how you write, how you articulate yourselves, the kind of things that you think, how you perceive thoughts, words, language, information, how you learn, and why. Mercury is known as the planet and messenger of the gods. So essentially, the way that Mercury works is God and the ascended masters will send their messages through Mercury, and people who have Mercury placements and what the placements mean and what the signs are. In ancient astrology, Mercury was called, again, the messenger of the gods. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Geminis can be very analytical, and they have, well, as far as their communication and how they articulate themselves. And then Virgos can be deep thinkers, and they dig beneath the surface, and they just have gems that we need, and they can get them to us in ways that other people can't. And it just seems to come from a higher place, because it does a lot of the times. They're tapped into God in ways that, not that we can't be tapped into, they just hear from God differently, so to speak. So what does it mean when Mercury is retrograde and it's in retrograde in Cancer, and when it's in retrograde in Leo? So the particular themes that I noticed that coincided with Mercury being retrograde in Cancer was there were a lot of people who were giving messages to people that they needed. It was like you were kind of watching somebody do way too much, and you were like, you know what, I can't take it anymore. Somebody has to say something, I'm going to be that person. But what you were seeing, there was a lot of shooting the messenger, like, how dare you say this? Now, everybody else may have been saying the same thing about the same person, but you may have just been, bold enough to tell it to them, like stick it to them and tell them to their face, and the person just went into victim mode, which when Cancer isn't being their highest self and their best self, they will try to get away with things through emotional manipulation. So you may have noticed, like, a lot of people, when you were calling them out on bad behaviors or ways that they needed to excel and be better and ascend, they went into victim mode and was like, how dare you? And how dare you say this to me? And how dare you think this of me? But then when Mercury went into Leo, the person who was calling them out was in the victor mode and was like, hey, like, you need to know that you doing fuck shit. Somebody had to tell you. Like, if I ain't love you and I ain't care about you, I would not come to you and tell you, like, you need to be better. Or that you're going to respect me, you're going to respect my mind, you're going to respect my boundaries, you're not going to disrespect me. So those are common themes and themes that you will continue to see play out during the last 2 weeks during this post-shadow period of Mercury retrograde. I will say take this time to catch up old projects that you may have worked on, old creative projects, old ideas that come to you, revisit them, revise them, re-strategize them. Where could they be better? Where do they need some fine-tuning? Don't be afraid to tie up the loose ends. There was a lot of passive aggressive behavior. So there was a lot of like people who would complain about like, oh, this person's doing that to me and this person is doing this to me, but yet you don't see them removing themselves from the situation. Like, you so sick, you so tired, but yet you're in the environment that keeps you ill, that causes your dis-ease. Yeah, no, I don't have time for it. So that is something that will also still come up or come to a head within the next 2 weeks during this post-shadow period. Ego. Leos rule the ego. So Leos, they are confident, they are bold, and they are brave, and they have the willpower and the tenacity to see things to they're finished with them, until the goal and the obstacle is removed and that they have accomplished their mission. But because of this, sometimes Leos can be too abrasive. They can have too much bravado. And when that happens, like, people feel themselves a little way too much. And when that happens, God has a way of humbling us. So be sure to be confident and activate your solar plexus. And solar plexus is a chakra that is right below the navel. And it rules like confidence, willpower, being in our truths, and, being, grounded in who we were called to be. But when you do become that person, you don't have to shove it down anybody's throat. You don't have to convince anybody. You are free to just be. All you got to do is be. You don't got to prove nothing to nobody. Just be you. Be the best versions of you. And when you're not your best selves, heal and move forward. But you don't have to, like, be domineering about it. So also, during Mercury retrograde season in Cancer, the narrative of like us not having power was removed. Like, the ancestors were very loud, they were very clear. I did more ancestor readings than I ever did in my life during Cancer seasons, because the ancestors had a lot to say, and people were getting intuitive nudges to get an ancestor reading or to create an ancestor altar or practice ancestor veneration, and think about the legacy that they want to leave behind and the legacy that they've already come from. Cancers in astrology rule family, ancestry, feminine energy, motherhood, creativity. So you may, in the home as well. So you may have found like a lot of things coming into question, like, oh, well, do I want to live here and my family's roots here, but should I be branching off somewhere else? Is there more uncharted territory for me to explore? Those are things that came up. I would just say, continue to ground yourselves and really pay attention to the narratives that you tell yourself. So, like, my biggest takeaway for everybody during Cancer in Leo in Mercury retrograde was to take your power back. You are strong. You are able-bodied. You are not a victim. You are a victor. You are a survivor. You have everything you need to be all that God called you to be. You are chosen for a reason. Many are called, but few are chosen. And as the elect, like, really think about how you move forward. Move forward with intention. Move forward with bravery. And this is where I stop, because IG be hating. Videos supposed to be an hour, but you can really only upload them for 10 minutes without them saying that the videos are too big. So that's it for Mercury retrograde. Remember, Mercury is also going to go into retrograde in Scorpio season. But for now, this is where we stop, and we're going on to the next sign in planet.